At Verizon, anyone can trade in their old phone for a new one on us with Unlimited Ultimate, which means everyone in your family could get a new phone and stay on your family plan, keeping you close.
Hey, Mom, you seen my toothbrush?
Yeah, I'm almost done with it.
Oh, maybe too close. Trade in and additional terms apply. See Verizon.com for details.
You got problems that you ought to be concerned with. You don't know how you're supposed to earn it, or what to do with it, or how to keep it. You're a freak with a dark, shameful secret, but you're not the only one. Get your hidden financial fears with a blast of sun. Now your healing has begun. It's Bad with Money with
Gabe S.
Done.
Hello and welcome to Bad with Money, a show about finances and feelings where we don't talk down to you. We finally have River Nice on the show. Do you want to say who you are and what you do?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. So my name is River Nice. My pronouns are they, them, and I am a queer, anti-capitalist, independent financial planner.
How did you start doing this?
Oh, so I used to work in tech and it wasn't for me. And when Trump got elected, I was like, well, there has to be a way to use what I am good at to help queer people. And my partner at the time had a lot of credit card debt from her gender transition. And I had just sat with her and just intuitively made her a budget and debt plan. And she was like, you have to help us with this. Nobody knows how to do this. And the whole internet just told me to stop buying makeup and avocado toast. And it wasn't helpful. So she's the one who gave me the idea that like doing financial planning for queer people could be a useful thing. That was the start.
What specifically are things that the queer community needed help with?
I mean, just like someone who already understands what it is to be queer. I mean, you know what it's like. Just being able to talk to somebody about money and not have to explain what hormones are, what gender-affirming surgery is, that family planning takes a little extra effort and sometimes a lot of extra money. Like, there's just like those basic, just like competency of understanding what our lives are like. But then there are specific financial things like applying for life insurance is a very gendered application. You have to apply as a male or a female, and which one you choose affects how expensive it is.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Life insurance and disability insurance.
Wait, say more about that.
So when the insurance companies decide how much they're going to charge a specific person to have life insurance with them, they are looking at statistically people of this quote unquote like sex and people of this age and people with these health statuses and people with this BMI, because they are fat phobic and ableist as hell, are this level of risk of dying young. So for someone who is statistically more likely to die young, they're going to charge that person more money to have the life insurance. Yeah, we're like really into it already. Like it's gross out here. Not that you don't already know that. That means that someone with the sex marker F gets cheaper life insurance because quote unquote women quote unquote live longer. Whereas disability insurance, sex marker F, it makes your disability insurance more expensive because we are assumed to have pregnancy risk, which is a risk for disability. So applying for these things in very gendered ways has a very real immediate impact on how much our lives cost.
Oh my God. So what do you tell people to do?
So every insurance company has their own policy or procedure about how they decide which sex marker we have. I do not have yet a comprehensive list because all of the companies are still like waking up to the fact that trans people exist. So they're all changing their policies all the time. So ideally, you work with an insurance broker who knows that trans people exist and will do that research for you. And then if you are willing to play the game and can play the game, perhaps one insurance company will use birth certificate and a different insurance company will use driver's license, and you can try to apply for the cheaper option in either situation. But take this all with a grain of salt. I am not actually your financial advisor, and I'm not advising you to commit insurance fraud. I would never do that. So we just need to know we love being law-abiding citizens of this great nation. But if there is a company that decides your sex in one way, then we follow that rule. And if there's a company that decides what your sex is in a different way, then we follow that rule.
So that's some of the more specific stuff. So I wanted to talk to you about rebuilding. Because like how many people come to you and they're not starting for the first time, they're starting over.
Mm-hmm. It definitely happens, especially like post-divorce or breakup kind of situation, or like big career change, career burnout situations. Yeah, that definitely does happen. And the majority of folks that I work with are folks who are like, oh, I finally have not just survival money. So what do I do now? And so whether it's the first time, second time, third time, it's like nobody really talks about how stressful it is to leave survival mode. But it is really stressful because you know what it was like to be there and you don't want to waste this opportunity.
Yeah. Like if you get a little bit of money, it's sort of like we have people writing in saying, well, how do I invest? Where do I invest? How do you even open an account? What do you do? Is that something that you walk people through?
Yes. And I give a free Investing 101 workshop once in a while. There's a recording of it on my Linktree right now, because that is like a huge question. Like a lot of investment advice out there is just like, here's how to choose which ETF. And like people are just like, literally, what are the words you're saying to me? Like one of the most common questions I get is, River, what buttons do I click to make the investing happen? Like I literally know, you know? So yeah, starting from scratch like that is what I am all about, because we're not given financial education in this country for a reason. And I want to help fix that, especially for the queer community.
Yeah, I think also a thing that keeps coming up is people not being sure what to invest in that is ethical. Like I've been reading a lot of money books, which has just fried my brain. And a lot of them are like, look, we're amoral. Like, here's what makes you rich. And then that's been a criticism of this show too, is like, well, the show's not going to make you rich. And I'm like, never said it was gonna. So people are like, how do I make sure I'm not investing in like the companies where oil gets on ducks or whatever? And so that's something that I think people are really concerned about. And I don't want to say like queer people aren't capitalists, because I'm sure there are, but Ellen DeGeneres, for one, maybe, but Buttigieg, maybe. Susie Orman. Oh my God. Okay. Well, but I think like, you know, there is more of a push to be ethical with your money in some way. So if you get money all of a sudden, you're like, how do I do this without turning into an asshole?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a super common conversation that I have with my clients. And I start with pointing out like, this is still late stage capitalism. Like there is no actually ethical choice here. We are doing our best to survive the tail end of an unethical system that's been around for hundreds of years. Like, and when we're talking about like individual humans, even if you just inherited $500,000, that is such a tiny drop in the bucket of the global stock market. Like, I don't want people to fall into this idea of like, if any of my money is actually invested in Amazon, I am as equally bad of the problem as Jeff Bezos is. Like, it's just not, that's not it. And so we think about what is the reasonable amount of effort to put into avoiding the stuff that is the biggest harm. And the easiest resource to find that data for yourself is the As You Sow database. You can go to prisonfreefunds.org, I believe it is.
As You Sow. That's interesting.
Yeah. It is prisonfreefunds.org. So you can look at like, you could go look at your 401k right now, see what funds am I invested in there, and then search that fund in the prisonfreefunds.org. And it'll tell you grade A through F, how much are you investing in private prisons, border control facilities, fossil fuels, deforestation, weapons manufacturing. And like those data points feel useful and measurable to me. The same database will also tell you the gender equality score, but that one I don't really trust, because if you put a cis white woman in charge of the private prison, that doesn't count to me as gender equality. So,
but she's a girl boss.
Exactly. She is a girl boss who is just committing human rights atrocities every day.
And that's equal rights. That's supporting that's that tweet that's like, I support female rights and female wrongs.
Yes. So, you know, you could spend an endless amount of time researching the ethics of everything you could possibly do with your money. But if we're talking about like individual humans who are not billionaires, it's just like, decide what is the reasonable amount of time to put into avoiding as best as you can with what you have access to in your accounts, the things that are the worst and that are actually measurable.
So the big fear, and we touched on this a little, is like, even if you get a bunch of money, the fear is then going back to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm someone who has definitely fluctuated. And it's so funny, like when people interview me and they're like, so you were bad with money and now you're good. And I'm like, I don't think it's linear in that way. Like I definitely have been good, but like, or had more money. But then, you have a bad year, you don't get paid that much for stuff, things go down, something happens. So like, how do you explain to people that? Because I think like also if you didn't have money, then the fear is like, it's just going to go away. But that is real. That's a real fear. It could all just go away.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how do you like get through that fear part? Because it's real. It's like being afraid of spiders. And you like, if you're afraid of like ghosts, you can reasonably be like, okay, ghosts aren't real. But if you're afraid of spiders, it's like, well, spiders will be in your house.
Yes.
Your hair is so much more than what you see when you look in the mirror. From stress and nutrition to hormones to lifestyle, so many internal factors affect what you see on the outside. With Nutrafol's science-backed whole body approach, nourish growth from within and achieve your best hair yet. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. Physician-formulated with 100% drug-free ingredients, Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting key root causes of thinning: stress, hormones, aging, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism through whole body health. While many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulations to ensure their efficacy. In a clinical study, 72% of men saw more scalp coverage after taking Nutrafol Men Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months, and 86% of women saw improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol Women Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months. Building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%. You'll have access to free naturopathic doctor consults, and a Headspace meditation membership is included. Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code BWM. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code BWM. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code BWM. Have you or someone you know been a victim of identity theft, harassed, stalked, doxxed? Privacy matters, especially to someone like me who has a bit of a public persona, but it also matters to my listeners because this kind of thing can happen to anyone. Do you ever wonder how much of your personal data is out there on the internet for anyone to see? More than you think. Your name, your contact info, your social security number, your home address, even information about your family members, all compiled by data brokers and sold online. Data brokers make a profit off your data, and your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, harassment, and unwanted spam calls. But you can now protect your privacy with Delete Me. I share a lot of my life online, so I am hyper aware of my safety and security. It's easier than ever before to find personal information about people online, and all of this data is just hanging out on the web, but it can have actual consequences in the real world. I have used Delete Me. I had an instance where some stuff was going on Reddit. I don't want to draw more attention to it, but I used Delete Me because a friend of mine who's a sex worker actually told me about it. And it's something that a lot of women online use in order to keep their information safe from stalkers and harassers. The solution that we used is called Delete Me. It is a subscription service that removes your personal info from hundreds of data brokers. I have actually used this. I used this years ago, and so that's why I'm choosing to personally endorse it. If you sign up and provide Delete Me with exactly what information you want deleted, their experts take it from there. Delete Me sends you regular, personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, and what they removed. Delete Me isn't just a one-time service. It is always working for you, constantly monitoring and removing the personal information you don't want on the internet. To put it simply, Delete Me does all the hard work of wiping you and your family's personal information from data broker websites. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for my listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting BAD MONEY to 64000. Text BAD MONEY to 64000. That's BAD MONEY, all one word, to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. New Year's resolutions are so hard to follow. I argue that we should probably just make these resolutions at any other time during the year when it's less stressful and there's less pressure on them. But if you have a specific resolution that you want to stick to that you feel is like within your grasp, that isn't like so far-fetched, then I guess New Year's is as good a time as any to do it. Especially with money, because that stuff is like, you just need a kickstart and it's really not that hard to do. It's really not so far off. If you have a big goal, only 8% of people stick to their resolutions all year long. But let's say there's a little goal that's a little more automatic, like acorns. With acorns, you can lock in years and years of healthy money habits in just 5 minutes. That's all the time it takes to open your account and start automatically saving and investing your money so it has a chance to grow. Automatically. That's key for one of those little resolutions. That's right. Today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing so your money has a chance to grow for you, your kids, and your retirement. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can start with $5 or even just your spare change. You don't need a ton of time. You can create your Acorns account and start investing in just 5 minutes. You don't need to feel like financial wellness is impossible. Acorns gives you small, simple steps to get you and your money on track. Again, what a good time to go for a resolution that isn't like climb Mount Everest, you know what I mean? Basically, Acorns does the hard part so you can give your money a chance to grow. As far as personal experience, you guys know that I've been up and down with investing. I've just gotten back into it with a very small amount of money. It really does matter. Watching it grow even a little bit is huge for me. And if you do start doing it, we would truly be on a better path financially than most people. Don't let it get you down that you're like, oh, it's just a small amount of money. That is like such an achievement in this country, I promise. Head to acorns.com/badmoney or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/badmoney.
Yeah, when people talk to me about I am afraid that the money's going to all disappear. The first thing is yeah, that's real, trying to pretend like it's not real is not going to help you feel any better. And I'm not trying to just gaslight people into you're fine. This country's totally solid. You definitely, can trust the government to keep us alive. So the next step is to kind of just reality check, what do you have going on specifically? And what are you able to do to protect yourself? So making sure that you have things like health insurance and disability insurance, if you can access it, renter's insurance, car insurance, these private insurance companies and policies that are set up to protect us financially since the government doesn't. And then make sure that you have savings, easy to access in a savings account for when the next unexpected thing comes up. And I'll talk through with people, how much do you need to actually have in your emergency savings? Because I know the whole internet says 6 months worth of expenses, but nobody can save up that much anymore. It's just not a thing for most people. So instead, I help talk through my clients. And I always say, we're going to put a 20-minute timer on this, and then we're going to do something nice afterwards, because just imagining all the ways in which you could lose all of your money is not a good time for your brain. But we'll talk through, what are the actual risks relevant to your life? If you have pets, then what would an emergency vet situation cost? If you don't have pets, we don't have to worry about that situation. If you have a car, what is your deductible that you would have to pay if you're in a car accident? But if you don't have a car, we don't have to worry about that emergency. Just going through that list of the 5 or 6 most common financial emergencies that I see, and how much money would help you get through that. And if you have enough money to handle 2 of them at the same time, I think you're a reasonable level of protected for when that next unexpected thing comes up. So then when you're scared, oh, what if everything goes away? You're okay, these are the reasonable steps that I have taken to protect myself. And like, if my income goes away, here's what I will do next. And now you have like a grounded plan for how you're going to do your best to handle the situations.
I read a lot of finance books, like I said, and I'm going to do an episode about Jim Cramer because he's ridiculous. But his book, the beginning of his book is like, he's like, you must get life insurance. You must get disability insurance. Like he bangs on about that, which I haven't heard anywhere else. And I was like, that's so interesting because I feel like people wouldn't think of that as like a first step because it's something that you kind of take for granted. At least some people do. But, you know, it's hard to reasonably in your brain be like, I'm going to pay up front for all of these things. I'm going to have X amount in insurance, because until something happens, you're like, why am I paying for this? But it's so hard because medical debt is like one of the number one things that can happen to you.
The insurance thing is tricky, especially things like life insurance, because you pay for that hoping that you never use it. Like, I don't want to die. Like, so
yeah, exactly.
It sucks that we live in a place and a time that we have to protect ourselves and our loved ones through these means. If we can even access it, if we can even afford it. Like, you know, if you have a salaried tech job, you've got life insurance, disability insurance, health insurance, and a 401k. But if you're self-employed, like, you would have to pay for those things yourself. If you're a freelancer, gig worker, like retail worker, like you would have to buy those things yourself. And disability insurance is really expensive because statistically, we're all very likely to experience disability at some point. So,
and if you even qualify for those things.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole system is so ableist and fatphobic and transphobic. Like, it's not easy to access these things, especially if you are already a marginalized person.
Yeah, I mean, even not realizing that you are trans until later, which I don't know anything about that. But, you know, it's like I had a breast reduction because I thought that will solve everything. And that was like $10,000 that I had saved to do that. And then 4 years later, I was like, oops, they need to go entirely. And luckily that was with insurance mostly, but like that's an expense that I don't know that other people would have. And I was like lucky to have insurance for it, but it is something that it felt to me like rebuilding. It felt to me like, okay, now I have to start over with how much is this going to be? And I spent, I don't know, $300 on stuff at CVS that I thought I would need while recovering. Like I bought metal straws and I bought gauze and I bought scar tape and I bought arnica and like, you know, all this stuff. I went sort of overboard with money that I didn't necessarily have extra of at that point. Or even like, you know, the amount of, you know, the testosterone and the minoxidil that I put to grow my mustache and like all these things that like me 4 years ago would be like not have budgeted for or not have thought of. And so I think it's like, to me, and I'm going through a breakup, but we can't get into that because I am going to interview a divorce attorney who isn't my mom, by the way, listeners, different divorce attorney. But yeah, like, you know, there's all these things that are unexpected that happen. And like, you were talking about your ex, I think, what do you do if you're like, oh my God, I'm starting over from scratch as a person now?
Yeah, totally. Right. And that is what got me started on this whole journey, right? Is my ex had like done whatever it took to get the clothes and the makeup and the stuff that made her want to continue to be here. So like, you do what you got to do. I want to say like, credit card debt doesn't make you a bad person. So if that's the thing that's going to get you through to tomorrow and to next week and to next month, like you do what you got to do and then make a plan for it. Like going into credit card debt to get the clothes you need, the surgery you need, the medicine you need, like if that's what you have to do to get through to next week or next month, that's what you do. And then make the plan to deal with it, you know? So like someone who's starting over feels like, you know, I don't have much money going on right now and I need things. Like I would start with what are your survival needs and what do they cost? And no one gets to tell you what counts as a survival need. my Spotify subscription to me counts as a survival need because like I need something for my brain when I'm not in a good brain place. So that $11 a month counts to me as a survival need. You know, my ex, like makeup, cigarettes, like those counted. So you get to decide what that is. And then you make a game plan for how you're going to pay for it. And ideally, you find enough income and or savings to be able to pay for the things. But if credit card debt is what helps you pay for the things to get through to next week to make the next plan, then that's the game that you're playing to get through this moment. Does that help?
Yeah, I think also I bang on about this in my Jim Cramer way. I put on a hat, I scream about it. No, just kidding. Interest rates are what's important. So if you sign up for a credit card that has, 0% APR for the first year or whatever, you got a year to figure it out. I don't know. I'm also like, is this good advice? It's just what I do. I just basically say what I do, which is like, you transfer, you do like a balance transfer to another credit card that has 0%. You can't do it so many times because the credit score companies will be like, hey, but that's something, I mean, truly, like I had a really bad couple weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, a bad time. And it was real. I mean, the things that are going on in this country regarding trans people are awful. And I had some other mental health stuff, but also I can't lie and say it wasn't about being trans. It definitely was. And like, I don't think if I didn't have top surgery already, I don't know that I would have made it through. I don't think I would be here because my brain was doing all kinds of gymnastics, trying to, I've talked about on JBU, I have a lot of problems with suicidal ideation. And so my brain was doing gymnastics, but really what I said to my friend is like, if I didn't, like, people are like, this isn't important. This isn't important. But like, I don't think I'd be here if I didn't already have top surgery. And I got top surgery in December. So I haven't even had it for that long. And like, that is real. Even like the testosterone that I take, I was explaining this to a straight bachelorette party a couple weeks ago. That I'm allergic technically to the testosterone that I inject. I actually just got the new one that I might not be allergic to. So it's very exciting, but I'm allergic. And I still every Friday put it inside me. And it's not a game. Like I'm like willing to get this welt, not because I'm like on a whim deciding I'm a guy. Like I'm joyfully giving myself hives. And like, if they took that away, I don't know what would happen, like, so like all of this stuff, like when you're talking about what's necessary, it is like rebuilding expenses that I didn't think I would have, but I don't see a way to not do that. And I'm going through a breakup. And so right now, like in the past, I've been very financially stable. And right now it's like nosedive. But what are you going to do?
Totally. And I tell my clients while things are going well financially, like they're not going to go well forever. You're going to slip up or things are going to get too hard or something unexpected is going to happen to you. And like being compassionate with yourself, doing what it takes to get through the time period, telling yourself, River said that it was going to get hard again. River said I can get back on the horse, like I can pick back up where I am. I don't have to like catch up on the last 6 months of spreadsheets to like continue to move forward past this point. Like that's just part of life. And it's part of like living here and now as things are scary and in some ways getting worse. Like we do what we got to do.
Right. Can you believe it's 2025 already? Life moves pretty fast, and starting a new year always reminds me of that. While I don't know what's going to happen this year, I know I'm prepared for the unexpected. Are you? Fabric by Gerber Life helps you get term life insurance in minutes, so you can help protect your family's financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done right from your couch, all online and on your schedule. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. If you've got kids, especially if you're young and healthy, the time to lock in low rates is now. Even if you have life insurance through your employer, it may not offer enough protection for your family, and it may not follow you if you leave your job. Fabric has flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. There's no risk. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can cancel at any time. They have over 1,900 five-star reviews on Trustpilot with a rating of excellent. Fabric was designed for busy parents like you, and it's more than life insurance. Free digital wills, access to investment accounts to invest for your kids' future, and more. And manage it all right from your phone. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/badwithmoney. That's meetfabric.com/badwithmoney. MEET fabric.com/badwithmoney. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions.
At Verizon, anyone can trade in their old phone for a new one on us with Unlimited Ultimate, which means everyone in your family could get a new phone and stay on your family plan, keeping you close.
Hey, Mom, you seen my toothbrush?
Yeah, I'm almost done with it.
Oh, maybe too close. Trade-in and additional terms apply. See Verizon.com for details.
Thanks to tax reform, American businesses have opened doors across our communities, investing in manufacturing, workers, and equipment, spurring millions of new jobs with higher wages and better training, and setting a new record high in corporate taxes paid to the U.S. government. America's businesses open doors. Tell Congress to keep the door of opportunity open. Protect and strengthen tax reform. Paid for by Business Roundtable.
I also think like a big thing that I've talked about is like you have a savings, right? And you go, let's say not a retirement. Let's say it's not in an IRA or it's not a 401k. There's no penalties. It's just a savings account, which is like a high yield savings account. I have one that I got, right? Get one of those. High yield savings account. So what's in there? So like as my quote unquote divorce is ongoing, my gay divorce, and then the transition stuff, I needed to take some money out of that. That's what that's for. Like, I can't be like, no, my savings. Cause like, yes, you're not supposed to dip into your savings. Fine. But honestly, like, what is that for then? Is it for me to sit here and panic and go into credit card debt? No, it's for me to like pull out money that is probably going to just go to rent. And then I have to fit. And then I have like, you know, I was like counting and I was like, okay, I can go 5 months without getting paid for something and still pay my rent. Is that going to pay for the other stuff? No, but you know, okay. So then I'm like, great, timer starts now. And that's, but I can't waste the time. I mean, I have wasted the time because I cry about money all the time, but like, you know, you waste the time being like, oh my God, I can't believe I had this money and now it's gone. I mean, not gone, but being used.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I tell people always like save for a purpose and know what purpose your savings is for. And part of that is my approach of like, we are saving for a purpose instead of for the sake of hoarding. But part of it is so that when you use the savings for what it's for, it's a success. So this is my emergency savings that I will pay for things in an emergency. So using it to get through an emergency is a success. Or even this is money that I saved up for those special sneakers because my feet hurt if I don't get my special sneakers. Like spending that money on the special sneakers is a success. And I know it sucks to like, it takes so long to build up the savings in the first place and then to watch it disappear faster than the amount of time it took to build it up. Like that sucks. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't, but using it for what it's for is a success. And that's great that you are able to do that.
I know, but now it's stressful and I beat myself up because I'm like, you put money in this thing and it's, you know, now it's causing you problems, or you like things aren't linear. Like I bought a house with my ex and now I will not be owning that home. Am I still paying a mortgage on that home until the like quote unquote divorce goes through? Absolutely I am. Was that the investment property that I hoped it would be and that would provide me financial security for the rest of my life so I could rent it out even if I didn't have any money? Guess what, babe? That's not what happened. So I felt very much like, okay, I'm an adult. And then I went back to being like a kid again.
But you did like try stuff for yourself in your future, and you did learn stuff, and maybe you don't end up with as many dollars as you wanted to end up with, and that sucks. Like, I'm not going to say that doesn't suck, but like you're going to be able to do it again because you figured out your ways to bring in money, your ways to use money. And like, I don't know, I think about like timelines of life, you know, when you're queer, it sets your timeline back of like at what age you're supposed to be able to do stuff. When you're trans, it sets you back more. And then when you have like a really unexpected like divorce or major trauma or something, like it just sets your timeline back. So like, it's not that the money wasn't worth it or is like gone and never coming back, or like what I did was wrong. It's that like the timeline's just different than expected. And that's part of us figuring out how to have the best lives we can have as queer trans people, you know?
Yeah. It's funny, like when I was younger, thinking what I would have when I was older, or being like, oh, you'll be married by X, Y, and Z. When now it's sort of like, why?
I know. My mom was 23 when my parents got married. I cannot imagine. I'm 30 and I'm like, I'm still too young. Like,
Yeah, my parents were older when they got married. My dad was in his 40s and my mom was in her mid 30s, late 30s. So I've always had that as a model. This thing that you have to sort of mourn and let go of as a queer person, what your timeline is and what you're going to be spending money on. I didn't think anything was happening until it was happening. Like I was like, oh, I'm like in 2021, I was like, I'm non-binary, but I'm not going to do any medical stuff. And then 6 months later, well, I'm going to get top surgery, but, and then 6 months later, I'm going to start hormones. I'm going to change all my clothes. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't, it feels right. It feels so hard to have planned for any of that because I just didn't know.
totally. And each of those steps costs money that this is straight people who've just been following the social script of the nuclear family, like don't have to deal with. Like it is just different.
They had
for
kids
us.
instead.
Right. Which is expensive, but like less expensive than some of the ways that we would have available to us to have kids. So like, yeah.
It is also, maybe it's not rebuilding. Maybe it's just being a human and changing and rethinking who you are or what you want, and being okay with even friends of mine who have gotten divorced. Like changing what your situation is, because life doesn't keep going forward. It's just kind of like a seesaw, or like what's it called? Those rides at the carnival that are like doot doot doot. Like that.
Yeah, like the pirate ship swinging back and forth.
Yeah, the pirate ship swinging thing. Maybe it's that instead.
Yeah. I don't know how this will land for you, but a lot of times when someone I know is like, well, I'm getting divorced or I'm recently divorced, I say, congratulations. Like,
yes,
you made a really, really hard decision that is in pursuit of your better life. Like, regardless of like how that decision was initiated, like you're following through on a really hard, major change that will, in the long run, improve the rest of your life. And that's not easy, and it is expensive. And like, I think it's better to do that than to stay in something that is not the best life you could be having.
Yeah. I mean, the financial abuse is real. We've talked about it on this show, financial obligation, like staying with people for that reason, those kinds of things, like really traps you. I mean, also people who can't afford to transition, or people who can't afford to, get gender affirming care. It breaks my heart. Or like, just feel like, oh, I shouldn't spend the money on that, or I don't have the money.
Yeah. Or like at this point, like move to a place where you can be yourself. That's expensive too.
Like, so one of the things that you have on your personal goals is to send money to Black and Indigenous folks, and also to prepare for climate change. So can you talk about like incorporating that kind of thing? Because I remember in June of 2020, I felt really helpless. And so I started doing this thing where I would just go on Twitter and be like, if you are Black, send me your Venmo. And then I was just sending people money and then later my accountant was like, none of that is tax deductible. Like but like, I get that, like things happen. And then I'm like, I know I don't have that much, disposable income right now, but I'm going to give all of it to the ACLU. You know what I mean? Like how do you do all of that to get, and I feel bad, right? Cause like sometimes I can afford to have a reoccurring payment to Planned Parenthood. And then other times I look at my budget and I'm like, okay, you can't do $150 to Planned Parenthood every month. So let's pause that for a while. But like, it feels horrible.
Yeah. First thing I ask my clients to think about is like, where is this need to give coming from inside you? Because if it's coming from the like American individualism, exceptionalism, I'm going to be the one to save the world. Like, I don't think that's actually helpful to the community at large. And if it's coming, I see this a lot with like white queer people. If it's coming from like a white guilt, white savior, if I just suffer enough, that'll fix racism. Like that's also not actually helpful to the community at large.
Yeah.
But when it's coming from a grounded, like, okay, me personally, River, I come from a line of like English and Irish, white people in the US who created and perpetuated white supremacy, like there's this English ancestry that is like the root of a lot of white supremacy in the world. Like, and I'm in a position currently today where it is easier for me to make $1 than it is for a Black trans person to make $1 because I am a white trans person. Like, therefore, I'm going to share some of that as my reparations for the current day, like income and wealth inequality. Because we as individuals are never going to be able to make up for the whole of white supremacy. That has to be like at least a national effort, if not a global effort, to like repair.
Yeah, we did a great episode. Yes, we did a great episode with William Darity about reparations. If people want to go check that out, he's also a great resource about that.
Mm-hmm. But then again, like for me personally, River, like I live in West Philadelphia. I am a renter in a historically Black neighborhood. So I am a symptom of gentrification, right? The white queer people move into the Black neighborhood as one of the first signs of gentrification. And I'm running my business out of this apartment. So for me, as soon as my business was stable enough that I was able to pay my own bills on my business, like my own bills for the business and my personal life, like I was able to like support myself with my full-time work, I started giving away, I don't even want to say giving away, I started paying my reparations in the form of financial planning services for Black queer folks or Indigenous queer folks, making sure that the level of which I am giving is just above what I am paying in rent. And now that's specific to me as like a white business owner running my business out of a historically Black neighborhood, making sure that the amount that I'm paying in reparations is higher than what I'm paying in the very low rent that I get by choosing this location. So some of my other clients who have like a fixed salary or something, or like an hourly wage or something like that, it'll just be like, do you want to be paying your reparations at an amount that's at least the amount that you pay on takeout per month, or on traveling for fun, or on these things that are not necessary to your survival, Because I am not interested in hurting my own stability and chance for survival and chance for like long-term stability and contribution to the community. But I am interested in making sure that I am giving at a level that reflects that racial justice is as important as me just like doing fun stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it is interesting because like I was going to say monetarily, the reason I was doing all that stuff on Twitter is because it was like the pandemic was at its height and I didn't feel that I could go to these marches and stuff as much as I wanted to because I was like scared of COVID. And so that's why I was like, okay, I'm sitting at my little keyboard doing my stuff. But like, I think there's other things you can do besides giving money if you don't, if you're not sure you can do that or whatever. But that's just one example, if you feel like you want to do other stuff, like how you were saying, giving these resources to these people for free because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, something that I was doing in like 2020, because my business wasn't stable enough yet for me to give money. And I was also not in a situation to be able to go march a lot, is like I talked to the other white people in my network and like was like, what stuff do you have that you don't need? Like my friend's mom had an extra window unit air conditioner, and that's a huge need in Philadelphia. So I just like drove to her house and picked up this air conditioner and cleaned it up and dropped it off for a family who needed it. So like there are resources that don't have to be financial or don't even have to be like a service that you provide directly to a person that you can help. I would also go, like, I wouldn't go to the protest, but I would go do jail support for the protesters who had been arrested. And like just being there as people are released and being like, you're great, here's some water, how are you getting home, what do you need? Like that's a huge resource for the community. There's other ways to contribute.
I was going to say too, the community aspect of it is really something that I think people don't engage with. Like a lot of people don't know their neighbors and stuff. And like, so I, with getting new clothes for changing my wardrobe, I asked a bunch of friends, like, are you getting rid of stuff? Or like, I think there's sometimes we feel really embarrassed, or it's hard to ask, or it's hard to, offer or something. And like, I think there's you're not as alone as you think you are. There's free Craigslist, there's Facebook Marketplace, there's just your friend. You can like be like, my friend who's kind of my same size, who's a guy, I was like, are you getting rid of anything? And he was like, I was going to give some stuff to Goodwill. And I'm like, please give it to me.
I love that.
Now I just wear his clothes all the time. And I was like, aren't you worried that I'm going to single white female you? Aren't you worried that I'm just wearing all your clothes and now we've merged?
That's real though. Like most of my clothes are hand-me-downs from friends and exes. Like and that's also helped me find my personal style. Like, well, I was attracted to this person who wears these clothes. What if I wore those clothes? Does that work for me? Like,
I know. I did a tweet one time where I was like, which is so funny because I didn't know I was trans at this point. And I said, the first step of having a crush on a man is dressing just like him. And I was like, ha ha, relatable, right? And everyone was probably just like, this egg. Anyway.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks. I made it. I finally made it to the party.
You had the question about climate change too, and I didn't want to forget it. But what were you going to say?
Oh, yeah, no, go for it. Well, I would answer that one as well.
Yeah, on my website, I list like my personal goals for my finances because I think that's only fair since I'm asking people to tell me their goals for their finances. One of my goals is to prepare for climate change as best I can with the information I have. So one of those things is like first making sure that I have some level of preparation here in my home. We had a scare in Philadelphia recently that the tap water wasn't safe. So I already am in a position where I have enough gallons of water stored for me and my cat for a week, just like in the closet of my apartment. And like I have canned food around. Like I'm not taking it to like libertarian prepper like extent, but just like looking around at what are the risks here. Like during the uprising in 2020, there was a period of time where I didn't really want to go to the grocery store in West Philadelphia unless I was interested in getting involved in what was going on around here. So like making sure that I have just like food and water and like Band-Aids and Advil around my apartment for at least a week is just like the first level of being able to handle stuff kind of crumbling around us. And then the next step is to be thinking about where do I want to situate my life for the longer term? Like I'm still a renter right now, but when I do buy property, it's going to be property that I've thought through the location of. There's a website, riskfactor.org, where you can type in a specific address and it'll tell you how at risk you are of flood or fire or heat or wind damage.
Oh my God, that's going to be so scary for all my little listeners with anxiety are heading there right now.
Once again, 20-minute timer and then go watch Steven Universe or something. Like don't just don't spiral all night, please.
Oh my God.
When I look at where do I want to buy, it's going to be looking at what are the safer locations for me to invest in property. If I wanted to live in like New Orleans or Miami or something, I don't think that I would necessarily be investing in real estate there. I would want to be in a more temporary situation in those types of locations. So those are some of the things, right? And then also making sure that I am plugging into mutual aid and like putting my efforts kind of equally into both mutual aid and saving into like the stock market and like traditional financial stuff. So that's how I kind of balance the fact that we have these financial structures we have to live under. And like, honestly, I think the stock market's going to be the last thing to go because the billionaires want that the most. But in the meantime, also, how are we setting up structures to be able to feed each other and take care of each other whenever stuff is really scary?
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of it takes money to make money, right? Like the amount of people, it was truly eye-opening. What I had nothing to do with the stock market, and then I started like looking at it, and it was eye-opening how much you could just make more money on top of money. Like once I realized what day traders were doing, I was like, are you kidding me? And then they act like their jobs are so hard. Your job is nothing. And you can come at me for this. Your job is click, click, click. That's your job. Unbelievable. So I learned, I figured it out. And you guys are just sitting there reading stuff and doing click, click, clickety clack. And that's your whole job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just also like learning this kind of thing. Like I felt much better about myself once I realized that that's what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that their job wasn't actually that smart. And you can come at me. And you can come at me. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. Do you have any parting advice for my audience?
Oh, just like, I know money is scary. Hopefully you're not totally avoiding it. And that's why you're listening to this amazing podcast. But like, it's okay that it's hard. It's okay that it sucks. It's okay to hate it. And I want you to like engage with it intentionally and just think through what you're doing with your money and your resources. You can do it.
You can do it. Mostly. Unless,
Mostly.
you know, we all, an asteroid hits and we all go underwater. I don't know. Anyway.
Then we won't have anything else to worry about.
That's true. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, rivernice.financialplanner, and on TikTok at rivernice.finance. Both of those places, there's a link in my bio with lots of free resources like a budget spreadsheet and workshop recordings. And you can schedule a call with me if you want to talk with me. Thanks for having me, Gabe.
Oh, thank you. Bad with Money with Gabe Shane Dunn is a production of Noted Bisexual, produced by Melisa D. Monts and Diamond MPrint Productions, edited by Diane King, post-production sound by Coco Llorens, and music by Mike Kaplan, Zach Sherwin, and Jack Dolgen, as sung by Sam Barbera. Thank you, love you, bye!
Some things you wouldn't mind being stuck with, like a huge inheritance. But a phone that has to be plugged in just right so it charges is not one of those things. Switch to Verizon and we'll pay off your old phone up to $800 via prepaid MasterCard for a new one on us. Just trade in any phone from our top brands with select unlimited plans. $829.99 purchase with new smartphone line on select unlimited plans. Minimum $90 per month with autopay plus taxes and fees for 36 months required. Less $830 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Trade-in terms apply. Payoff phone requires smartphone purchase and port in with new smartphone line on select plan. Must provide most recent bill showing payoff amount of eligible phone. Additional terms apply.
Thanks to tax reform, American businesses have opened doors across our communities, investing in manufacturing, workers, and equipment, spurring millions of new jobs with higher wages and better training, and setting a new record high in corporate taxes paid to the U.S. government. America's businesses open doors. Tell Congress to keep the door of opportunity open. Protect and strengthen tax reform. Paid for by Business Roundtable.